You open the app without thinking much about it. You tell yourself you're just going to post something simple. A photo, a thought, a small update. Nothing dramatic, nothing controversial, just something normal. You type the caption quickly. It feels natural at first. Then you read it again. Suddenly, it sounds different, too eager, too emotional, too unnecessary. You imagine someone reading it with the wrong tone. You imagine someone thinking you're trying too hard. You imagine someone not reacting at all. Your chest tightened slightly. Not panic, just a small internal contraction. You delete a sentence. You rewrite another one softer. You remove a word that feels too bold. You add something neutral. Now it feels safer, but also smaller. You stare at the post button. Your thumb hovers, and something inside you whispers, maybe don't. You close the app. It was just a post. So why did it feel like exposure? This pattern is quiet, but it repeats. You hesitate before sharing good news. You hesitate before sharing opinions. You hesitate before sharing excitement. Even something harmless feels heavy. You watch other people post freely. They share random thoughts, imperfect photos, unfiltered opinions. You tell yourself you just are not like that. You are private. You are careful. You do not need attention. But that is not the full truth, because you do care. You care enough to think about it deeply. You care enough to imagine reactions. You care enough to rehearse what might happen. Before posting, your mind starts running simulations. How will this look? Will this change how people see me? Will this invite criticism? Will this make me look weak? Even silence feels safer than risk. This is where most people misunderstand themselves. They call it insecurity. They call it overthinking. They call it social anxiety. But that is not precise enough. What is actually happening is protection. Your brain does not experience social exposure as neutral. It experiences it as evaluation. And evaluation carries risk. Not physical risk, but relational risk. And to your nervous system, relational risk still matters. The moment you prepare to post something personal, your amygdala activates. The amygdala is your threat detection system. It scans for danger constantly. It does not wait for proof. It reacts to prediction. When you imagine judgment, even hypothetically, your brain registers that as possible. Rejection. And rejection has always meant loss of belonging. Belonging has always meant safety. So the equation becomes simple inside your nervous system. Visibility equals vulnerability. Vulnerability equals possible rejection. So visibility equals possible danger. It does not matter that you are sitting alone in a quiet room. Your body reacts to the imagined social outcome. That slight tightening in your chest, micro-threat response. That loop of rewriting, cognitive threat management. Your default mode network activates next. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-reflection and imagining how others see you. It starts running scenarios. What if they misunderstand? What if this sounds stupid? What if this changes how I am perceived? You rehearse defense arguments for comments that do not exist. You prepare explanations no one has asked for. Your mind builds a courtroom. You become both the defendant and the prosecutor, all before you press post. Here is the deeper layer. Most hesitation around posting is not about strangers. It is about specific people, one person from your past, one colleague, one family member. Your brain predicts how that person might react. And if you have ever experienced subtle criticism, embarrassment, or dismissal in the past, your system remembers. The amygdala stores emotional memory, not the full story, just the feeling. If you once shared something and felt exposed, your brain marked that moment. So now, before you post, your system whispers, "Careful." The brain prefers certainty over possibility. If you do not post, nothing bad happens. That relief you feel after closing the app, that is reinforcement. Your nervous system says, "Good choice." We avoided risk. Relief strengthens avoidance pathways. The next time you try to post, the hesitation arrives faster. Avoidance quietly grows. Over time, something else happens. You begin to shrink your online self. You share less of what excites you, less of what challenges you, less of what feels raw. You present a controlled version, curated, safe, neutral, and this shapes identity. You start believing you are simply someone who does not share much. But the deeper truth is that you learn to associate expression with evaluation, and evaluation with threat. This is not weakness. It is pattern learning. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: predict danger, minimize exposure, preserve belonging. The problem is not the instinct. The problem is that the threat calculation is outdated. Social media is not a tribe deciding survival, but your nervous system still uses ancient wiring. Imagine standing on a small stage. Each time you step back instead of stepping forward, the stage appears slightly taller the next time. Avoidance stretches perceived height. The longer you hesitate, the larger the imagined risk becomes. So how do you rewire this without forcing yourself into uncomfortable exposure? First, you separate visibility from identity. When you prepare to post, remind yourself, this is one expression, not my entire self. Your brain often treats posts as identity statements. If someone dislikes it, your system feels like you were rejected. But a post is not you. It is a moment. When you consciously label it as limited, the prefrontal cortex engages. This reduces amygdala intensity. The perceived threat shrinks. Second, interrupt the simulation loop. When you catch yourself imagining reactions, do not argue with the thoughts. Simply label them. Prediction. That single word creates distance. Naming rumination shifts activity away from the default mode network. It reduces emotional immersion. You stop feeding imagined scenarios. Third, practice controlled micro-exposure. Do not jump to dramatic vulnerability. Start small. Share something slightly authentic, but not overwhelming. When nothing catastrophic happens, your amygdala updates its prediction. This is exposure learning. New memory traces form. Safety becomes associated with visibility. Fourth, redefine success. Most people measure posting success by engagement, likes, comments, validation, but that keeps your brain dependent on external reward. Instead, measure success by action. Did you express yourself despite hesitation? That is the win. When you reward courage internally, dopamine attaches to agency instead of approval. You retrain your reward system. Fifth, expand tolerance gradually. Think of visibility as a muscle. The more you practice safe expression, the stronger your tolerance becomes. Not louder, stronger. You are not trying to become someone else. You are updating an outdated threat prediction. Over time, the hesitation softens. It may never disappear completely. That is normal, but it no longer controls the outcome. You notice the tension. You breathe through it. You post anyway, and something subtle shifts. You stop shrinking. You stop editing yourself into safety. You allow small visibility, and with each small act, your nervous system learns a new equation. Visibility does not equal danger. It equals expression. The next time your thumb hovers over the post button, notice the old instinct rising, not with frustration, with understanding. It is just protection, but protection does not always need to be obeyed. Sometimes it only needs to be updated, and pressing post can be a quiet act of nervous system retraining, not for attention, but for freedom.